Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I'm a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you love. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. If you didn't know, I have literally done every single structure inside of my business over the last 11 years. So when I first opened my salon, I was commission and with bad leadership. Then after I had done commission for a few years, I decided that I wanted to switch to rental. Then I switched to hybrid because I knew that eventually I would like to work my way back into being a full commission salon, which is what I am today with good leadership, systems, and structure. So I want to share today my personal opinion of what I think is the best and my opinion on each one of these structures. Again, this is my opinion based on what my personal experience has been in the last 11 years. Now, opinions they vary and they're fleeting, right? So I think that if you are someone who is either opening a salon or you're thinking about restructuring, gathering as much information and as much data as you can is what is going to be best and is what is going to actually lead you into the right direction. So I also want to add that choosing a commission or a rental or a hybrid, you need to base this decision off of what you want as a business owner and what your end goal is for your life and for your business. And what I mean by that is there's only so much potential for growth with certain structures. There is only so much potential for certain structures. There are limitations for certain structures. So you need to get really clear on what your end goal is and where you want to grow and what you want to focus on inside of your day-to-day and what you want to produce as an end result for your life and your business as a whole. And we're going to go over that as well, like what to decide on, like what are the factors and what you should really think about when choosing a structure. So first, I'm going to talk about having a commission salon with bad leadership. I want to say that I opened my salon and I definitely was a salon owner with a hairstylist mentality. I had a really poor leadership. I really didn't know much about business. I had no idea what I was doing. I just was kind of winging it. And I was testing and I was figuring shit out as I went along. And I'm not going to lie, like I've had a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs in my business. But to be honest, all of these things have just given me so much clarity and insight and really have given me a lot of perspective overall what it's like inside of our industry and what the potential is and where I can see where I can help other people grow because of all of the things that I've really experienced. So I'm going to start this conversation with talking about my leadership inabilities with my commission salon. So when I first opened my commission salon, it was very micromanagey. I really didn't have strategy when it came to really implementing systems. I didn't have strategy when it came to really picking prices. I kind of just gauged things off of what I knew and experienced in the past, which to be honest is not a great way to do business. And I say this because everyone's expenses are different, everyone's, goals are different, and what you need to sustain your business is going to be much different than the salon next door. And you can't gauge your prices or these things based on past experiences with other employers or the businesses around you because that's going to set you up for failure. What I can say is that I was really toxic. I feel like I was not a good leader. I micromanaged. I felt like I was stressed out all the time. I was really reactive. My team really didn't know what they were going to get when they ran into me, if I was going to be in a good mood or a bad mood, because I didn't handle my stress. I didn't handle my stress at all. It was very, very financially stressful. It was emotionally stressful. And I just really just didn't have the capacity to control, or I didn't have the ability to really understand that emotional intelligence is so important to everything that you do inside of your business and for your leadership. So just to make a long story short, I wasn't profitable. I was still working 40 hours behind a chair, totally stressed out, and really just not like super excited to be a salon owner, but I had invested a shit ton of money and I just kind of was going with the flow every day. I retained my team pretty well, and I can't say that my team was the happiest, but I can say that my culture was pretty toxic because of the gossip, because of the lack of emotional intelligence, and because of the lack of leadership inside of what I had created. Now, to make a long story short, I decided to switch to rental when one of my top stylists, who was a very high performer, told me that she was leaving and that she had signed a lease to move on to a salon suite. And I was happy for her. But I was definitely in a financial bind because I had just gotten off of maternity leave, or it was like the tail end of my maternity leave. My business needed my income and revenue to really thrive. And I can honestly say, even though I was working 40 hours behind the chair, I really wasn't taking home a paycheck as is. Thank God that I had help from my partner to really help pay the bills, where I was even able to take, a substantial maternity leave. So she told me she was leaving, and it was the end of the year. It was January. And at that time, taxes were due. I ran out of savings because I had been out of the salon for, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. I can't really remember. So I was so stressed out. I had a new baby. I wasn't sleeping. And I just kind of gave up on my business. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not worth the stress. I'm not making any money. I felt like I was really just kind of depleted with all of the things that I had tried in my business to create success. So I made the decision to switch to rental. Now, again, this was very scary for me because I had a staff, a team, and I knew that some of these team members would probably leave and then I would have to replace them with other renters. I had done rental at a rental salon for 2 years. So I did have experience with being inside of a rental salon as a hairstylist, not as a rental salon owner. And I really thought that this was going to solve all of my problems. Now, I'm going to say, because I want to dive into picking a structure that works for you by really deciding what you want to do with your life. If you are somebody who does not want to work behind the chair and who wants to generate revenue that has the potential for profit so you can have freedom, a rental salon is not for you. A rental salon is perfect for somebody who is very passionate about doing hair and who wants to kind of focus on doing hair behind the chair and having the possible ability to take home the money that you bring in from your personal revenue that you are creating by doing your clients behind the chair. How many times did I just say behind the chair? So I'm going to place that little chunk of knowledge right there. And now I'm going to go into my story. So I switched to rental. I let my team know. I lost about half my team, but I also retained a lot of people. Now, when I decided to do rental, I knew that I didn't want to rent each chair out. So I was renting out time and days. So I gave my team the ability to either work full-time or part-time, and the station was theirs for the day that they rented out, not theirs as a whole. And the reason why I did this is because I wanted to maximize my profit behind the behind what I was doing. And I knew that not everyone was going to work 7 days a week. So that left the salon open, or left those station open a couple days a week. So there was potential to make more money there. This was not taken in a way that was, it wasn't accepted, but I was like, this is what I'm doing. So you have the choice to do it this way, or, you have the choice to move on. And a lot of people decided to stay and rent. So what I found, and again, this is my personal opinion and this is my personal experience, rental was not for me. Because I am very systems, client experience, really value my reputation, wanted to really have consistency with the experience that people were having inside of my salon. That is really hard to do with a rental. So rental is great if you just want to focus on your own business, but it's really hard to create a consistent business with rental stylists. And the reason why I say that, because if you're doing rental right, there are laws behind what can and cannot be done. Each person is able to run their business in any way that they want because they are a tenant, they are not an employee. Rental hairstylists are tenants, they are not employees, which means you cannot tell them how to dress. You cannot tell them how to conduct their business. You cannot tell them how to do hair. You can't tell them to be on time. You cannot tell them what to do with their business if you're doing rental right and legally. They are a tenant. It would be like going and renting someone an apartment and telling them how to decorate or who they can and cannot have over, right? You can't do that. So there was no consistency inside of the business, and clients would make comments because I used to have really great beverages. We used to have like a hot chocolate bar. Like I did all these fancy things to create a client experience. And because I switched to rental, I could no longer afford to do those things because I literally was only receiving revenue that was high enough to cover most of my expenses, not all of my expenses. So I don't think that the stylist really realized the benefit of creating this experience for their clients, or they just didn't want to spend the money on it. So clients would say a lot of things like, oh, can I have a hot chocolate? Can I have whipped cream? And like the stylist would be like, oh yeah, no, that was done by, the owner. We're not doing that anymore. Clients get confused. They don't understand the difference. They really don't. You can kind of try to explain it to them, but like, again, they're coming into a business. They're coming into a salon with a name, and that is who's going to get the blame, right? For the bad experience. So for me, it just wasn't making me happy. At this time, I had signed a lease on my very first salon suite, and we were building that out. I ended up moving out of my salon and moving into the salon suite to do my own business so I could have more of a private atmosphere. And I hired more rental stylists to kind of take over the salon and the space in my salon. Now, I can honestly say I did not base my rent cost off of all of my expenses. And this is another mistake I see a lot of salon owners make. They don't really look at their fixed expenses for their business, and they set their rent for just what the rent costs, right? But there's so much more that goes into it. The amenities you're giving your stylist, towels that need to be replaced, if you're giving them a booking system, insurance, electricity, all of these things need to be factored into what your costs are. So again, I was still taking some of the revenue that I was generating and putting it back into the salon and into my expenses. So I can't really say that I made more money. I can't really say that, it gave me more freedom. What I can say is that it really was the same, except for I was generating less revenue. I still had to manage people. I still had to listen to complaining. And I can honestly say that stylists that are renting from you, and I don't want to offend anyone who listens to this who rents from me now, because they are now, some of them are now in salon suites. So this isn't geared towards anybody that is renting from me currently. But a lot of people who rented from me were entitled. They felt entitled and felt that because they were paying me rent, that I owed them, and that they didn't have to do what they were supposed to do in order to facilitate the needs of the space in the salon. And by that, I mean they didn't think that they should have to do towels. They didn't think that they should have to clean their space. No one wanted to be collaborative. They only focused on their own individual business, which created no culture and created no consistency, and just created a salon full of people who complained. And that's exactly what it was, because no one wanted to take responsibility for their business. They only wanted to focus on the things that they, didn't want to do, that they had to do. So it was really hard to get people to do towels, even though it was their responsibility. It was really hard for people to clean their stations because someone else was using that station, because they felt like they were paying me rent and that they didn't need to take responsibility for their business. Now, again, this isn't everybody who rented from me. I had some really great renters, and I still have some really great renters who are in my salon suites now. And I'm so grateful for them, because they've continued to do business with me and create their own spaces and their own beautiful little salons. But some of the people that were inside of my business that are no longer with me for obvious reasons, they just kind of felt entitled. Or I felt that they were entitled. So that didn't work for me either, because it was just frustrating, and it made me angry that, they didn't want to take responsibility for their business. So I can honestly say that I didn't like rental, because I felt like I was doing the same thing, and I felt like I had to work harder because I needed to, actually work behind the chair to be able to take home money. And it wasn't for me, because I had no control, and we'd get bad reviews, and all of these things would happen, and it was out of my control. So rental was not for me. Again, this is my personal experience, and this is just how I feel. So somebody else who has a rental salon may have great culture. They may have a great team. They may really enjoy the way that they have their structure set up. For me, I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom for my business. I wanted freedom to come and go as I please. I knew I didn't want to work behind the chair forever. And I wanted freedom. And this, again, was not something that was bringing me to that place that I wanted to be. So I got a coach, and I began to transform my rental salon. I started adding on more salon suites. And at this point I had I had 3 salon suites. So I moved some of the renters over to the salon suites. Some of the renters had moved on. And once space started freeing up in my salon, I started bringing on commission employees. So I brought on 1 commission employee who is still with me till this day, Melanie. And she started to work with me inside of my salon suite, because I was still in a salon suite at this time. And I began to train her and develop her, and then she started to take my clients. And then I hired another person, and again, she's still with me till today. Because I started working on my leadership, I started really focusing on building my business, and I got really clear on what I wanted, and I knew that I wanted to go back to being a commission salon. So at this time, I rented out the suite that I was working in. I moved back into the salon. So now we were at a hybrid, sort of situation. So I had some renters, and I had some commission people. And again, this personally did not work for me. And the reason why is I wanted control of my business. I wanted control of the client experience, and I wanted control over the standards that were being had inside of my business, product quality control. These are all things that I knew that I wanted. and I knew I wanted to grow my business. So I signed another lease and opened up more salon suites, 3 more salon suites, and the existing people that were in my salon that were renting, I moved them over to the new salon suites. So then I had completely converted my hybrid salon to fully commission. And that is what I have till this day. And it is my favorite. It's my favorite if you do it right, if you know how to budget, if you know how to be a great leader, if you know how to build culture, if you know how to be intentional. The reason why I love commission is, one, because you can create all those things that I just listed, but you can create freedom for yourself. I no longer work behind the chair unless I want to, and I can really focus on my business. Now, I will add, I do have rentals still. It's not a rental salon. I have salon suites, and I fucking love them. I love salon suites over having a rental salon. And the reason why is because renters who have their own space treat their business different. They treat their business different. It's like their own little micro salon, and there's different heart and soul that's put into it. They actually treat it like, they actually treat their businesses like a business. They take full responsibility for their space. They clean their space. They really take responsibility for their client experience. And it's a beautiful thing. So I feel, for me, the way to do rental is with salon suites, because the mentality and the consciousness of the stylist is different than what I have experienced with stylists just renting a station from me. So that is my story. That is my personal preference. I prefer commission over any other structure because of the freedom it gives me, because of the experience and the business that I have control over and that I can control over and I can create. Now, mind you, I'm not a micromanager. I just create my business with intention. So yeah, so I was, this was a request, by the way. Someone wanted to know the differences between the commission and rental. I also want to add one last thing. With a commission salon, you do have higher expenses. You do have, more team to manage, but I wouldn't say that it's more. I would not say it's more. What I will say that you can only make so much money. You're capped with rental, and with commission, the sky's the limit. You can sell, products, which I did with rental too, but it was different, because people want to sell their own products. But you can bring on as many team members as you want. You can control your expenses to a certain extent, and you can be opened and hire people. So I feel like you have so much more potential for growth with commission, more potential for more money, and more potential to really make a difference and be impactful. I feel like renters, they've already been there, already done that. They've already been controlled. They're ready to do their own thing, their own way. And that's great, because that's an experience I would never trade for anything. So they don't want to be managed. They don't want to be educated. They don't want to be coached. Most people who are transitioning at that time, or most people who are renting, because they're renting because they want their independence, right? So you don't have the opportunity to really, coach and mentor and really help people grow in the way that you do with commission. The way that you can help people grow, the way that you can expand people when they're a commission stylist is limitless. Thanks for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at opulentbeautypro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing. See you next week.